So I'd like to read to you an article from Psychology Today. And it is about something that Hugo de Garis, the transhumanist, a term he coined back, in the 70s, I think he said, masculinist. And the masculinism movement that developed alongside feminism. It was the older men's rights movement, essentially, the older manosphere, basically. And I want to read to you this article so that you get an idea for what these guys are saying, and then I'm going to tell you what I think of it. Quote, "The feminists have had their say over the years, and most men got the message. It's not okay to objectify females, to see them as a conglomeration of body parts, to speak of them as if there is a microphone nested between their breasts, or to act as if young women strutting the streets in mini skirts and revealing halter tops are the least bit interesting to us unless they also happen to be carrying a copy of Goethe's Faust." Okay. So we got it. Women are not merely sex objects of desire, but what happened to men in the process of their feminist education. Poet Robert Bly, in Iron John, was very critical of typical New Age sensitive males. I love that one. Who had essentially cut off their own genitals in the effort to distance themselves from the macho idiots that incur the wrath of women, and to become the thoughtful, feeling blokes women claimed they wanted them to be. There was a rude awakening for many of us, though, when we discovered that yes, women wanted us to be sensitive and respectful friends and fellow workers, but more often than not, they still preferred the bad boys in the bedroom. We were duped. Gipped. I remember as a teenager, the single worst thing a girl could ever say to you was, "Let's just be friends." It was the kiss of death, like Seinfeld's soup Nazi. It essentially meant, no nookie for you. As I got older, just once I wanted a woman to say to me, "Listen, let's just be lovers. I can't handle a friendship right now." I once mentioned this in a stand-up comedy performance, and an enterprising lass in the audience approached me after the show and took me upon her. We made a date to get together, but when I got to her apartment, I found it was filled, floor to ceiling, with 32 years' worth of the New York Sunday Times. When I inquired, she said if she ever got around to catching up, she would most likely begin the Section 2, the Arts and Leisure pages. Needless to say, this opening conversation was not a harbinger of erotic adventures to come, and I left soon afterwards, with a 1973 copy of the book review tucked under my arm, a consolation prize. My old college friend Billy had a unique way of dealing with the sex and power issues within a stable marriage. He writes, "Even though as a gynecologist I knew there were better methods available for birth control, I always recommended the old-fashioned diaphragm to couples because it had a distinct advantage. It had to be stored somewhere, usually in the soap dish or shampoo caddy in the shower. Early on in our marriage, I learned that if I let my wife get into bed first, I could go into the bathroom, check the shower, and I could eliminate the guessing game as to whether that night would be a go or not. If the diaphragm was not in the shower, there was only one other place it could be. If it was still in the shower, then I could go get into bed with a preemptive strike saying, is it okay if I just hold you tonight? After our last child, and after the tubal litigation, I was back out in the woods, figuratively, when I asked my wife if she would mind continuing to use the diaphragm, and she figured out why. I got cut off for a good 2 weeks. Really? That's just you wanted more kids. I took a popular workshop in the early 80s called Men, Sex, and Power, now the Sterling Men's Weekend, in which the following riddle was proposed as a summary of male-female relations around sexuality. How does an 800-pound male gorilla make love to its female mate? The answer, any way he wants to. The message was that women ultimately want men to be men, and that they want to be taken, often with force. And this is in brackets, in a safe and mutually agreed upon consensual way, of course. And it was high time that New Age men, there's no better way to say it, got their balls back. But the message of the gorilla is dangerously close to the belief system of right-leaning Christian groups, like the Promise Keepers, who assert that a man must reclaim his rightful place as head of the family, the one who wears the pants, while a little woman returns to her rightful place as nurturer of hearth and home. Okay, no offense, I don't really like the Christians either, but what does that mean? It's almost like whoever posts this just saying that to appease certain people. It's aggravating. If you're going to pick that kind of philosophy, then stick with it and go with it all the way. Don't do shit like that. Jesus fucking Christ. At least Christians have the balls to go all the way with what they believe. And don't pander to pussy motherfuckers that just, no, it sounds too much like right winger, you're a bigot. Anyways, certainly as a society we have thankfully moved way past such limiting rules long ago. Okay. But in the sexual arena, even wise teachers of sexuality such as David Deida, author of umpteen books on the subject that means nothing, insists that in striving for equality of the sexes, women have become more like men and men more like women. That's inevitable when you ask for, non-traditionalism. If you have them both take on each other's roles and become interchangeable, what do you think is going to happen? It's so fucking stupid. This is why I'm going to critique this article and this so-called movement. Alright, anyways, getting back to this. Where was I? Okay, so women have become more like men and men more like women. And in that sameness we have lost the fundamental male-female energetic polarity that makes for desire, lust, and hot sex. Exactly. How to bridge this gulf, in which men are men, women are women, and raw, primal desire is real and allowed, yet not cross over into the world of inequality, rigid rules, objectification, and pre-feminist values. He goes on to say, it's the marriage of love and desire, the blending of eros and agape, that has been particularly problematic for men forever. If I want you, I don't love you, and if I love you, I don't want you. How many men have sectioned off their lives, keeping love in the home and hiding eros in the pornography closet? Well, I'm gonna... Okay, I have to stop there and just jump in right here before I forget. First of all, men don't have a problem with that. It's that they can't find the right mate. That's why that happens. Because, let's face it, women get to have whatever kind of guy they want, but are never satisfied. Men have the exact opposite problem. They have very simple standards, and yet even these days it's impossible for even a minimum of them to be truly fulfilled without being called some evil patriarch. And then he brings in agape love. Agape love, unconditional love. I'm sorry, folks, but we need to stop talking about this unconditional love bullshit. It doesn't exist. There is no such thing. All love is conditional. If between us humans, it's all conditional. If I'm together with somebody and we're in a relationship and she doesn't keep her figure and gets too fat or whatever the hell it is, her shit down there, her junk becomes like a bush because she hasn't shaved, well, that's unacceptable. No, I'm not going to have unconditional love for her. I'm just not. That's not how I work. I don't believe in that kind of love. I think that kind of love is destructive, frankly. But that's just me. And the same goes for me. If you're in a relationship with a woman, there are certain things she requires of you in order to be her mate, right? They have to be reasonable, sure, but there are certain requirements. You gotta shower every day. You gotta make sure that you keep yourself trim. You gotta work out. You gotta do certain things that you should do anyways, regardless. But, especially for your one and only, yeah, those are things you want to do. They need you to do those things. Otherwise, you're not attractive. And it's just people don't understand this at all. Anyways, moving on. What would a masculinism movement entail? Oh God, another fucking mass movement. Not another mass movement. I'm tired of you idiots and your stupid mass movements. Preferably something other than the Bly-inspired men's movement that usually had us sitting in sweat lodges and drumming naked in the woods, desperately trying to reclaim our primitive roots. Where? When? How? What are you talking about? Okay. Goes on to say, I don't think becoming an imitation of Native Americans is the answer for guys like me or most men I know. Somewhere between Ward Cleaver and Geronimo, the answer lies. My friend Charlie, however, a veteran of the men's movement, points out in its defense that, quote, men in America are divorced from the earth, the sky, the air, fire, and water, and everything that made men men for thousands of years, because they were close to nature. Okay, he sounds like a genius. That's exactly what I think. So why did you say what you said before? Oh no, we shouldn't be, stupid primal roots. That's so primitive. See, we are sophisticated New Yorkers now. No, see, we live in cities. Because cities are awesome. Whatever. Fucking pussy. Anyways. It goes on to say, Charlie offered me a few other ideas. My solution to the problem of keeping masculinity and sexuality alive in a long, loving relationship has been A. To honor the deep masculine part of me that's earthly, dirty, politically incorrect, crude, rude, and wild. Thank you, I totally agree. B. Surrounding myself with men in my life, good men who prove their love for me by kicking me in the butt whenever I am full of shit and seeing them often. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now that I can't stand people like that because I can see when I'm doing something wrong. I don't really know why you want guys like that around you. That seems a little crazy, but hey, whatever floats your boat. Me, if a guy was constantly doing that, well, maybe only in a certain way, but yeah, if guys around me were constantly doing that, I'd eventually punch them in the face. C, never get too close to your wife. I mean, never getting too close to my wife. Oh, we spend quality time, and I adore her and love her more than I'd ever loved a woman. But I limit my time with her. Otherwise, my dickie dies of domicide. Domestication side, whatever, however you spell that, I don't know. Too domesticated. Okay, I want to say right here, because he's not actually saying this, but this is something that the manosphere says a lot. Excuse me. Oh, shit. Fuck, water went down the wrong tube. Don't you hate that? Anyways. Alright, so the men's rights movement says stuff like this a lot, and it's true. Don't get too close to your girl. But I want to ask a question, because I know Hugo de Garis has condemned MGTOW for basically not trying to be men. He encouraged us to be like the masculinists. We take up arms and we go into the world, and despite it hating us, almost like we're Walter White from Breaking Bad, what do men do? They provide for their family, even if they don't get any respect for it. And that's basically what I hear. And then when it comes to women, you never get close. You can never get close to a woman. You hear that throughout the men's rights movement, and they're right. The PUAs, the men's rights movement, the MRAs, whoever you want to talk to, no matter what decade going backwards in time, it doesn't matter. They all say the same thing, and they're right. If you want to keep your wife wanting you in that primal way that, makes you feel like a man, then ironically, you can't get close to her. Because then the struggle's over, and she thinks she's won you. And once she's won you, then she's not interested in you anymore. It's a general rule that we've all figured out at this point. And that's the funny thing is okay, then why is everybody getting mad at MGTOW? Like, this is exactly what MGTOW is talking about. You know what? Why should I have a wife then? Oh, I want a partner, I want a spouse, I want this. You were just, the same person was just talking about equality, and we don't want to be rolled back to those primitive times where, it was like the right-leaning Christian groups, such as the Promise Keepers. They say that, not but a couple paragraphs before they state this kind of shit. The whole men's rights movement and the manosphere, ever since its inception, has been like that. Why the contradiction? Maybe they can't get over this innate desire to be that guy. So, no, either you have a traditional wife and she either does what you want and you don't open up to her, is almost like it has to go, it seems. That's the only time I've ever seen it work, and work well, is when a man and woman gets married and they stay together their whole life. It's because the man is an actual man who doesn't open up to her at all. Even if she goes out and does the typical things that feminists say women should do and gets a job and yada yada. Same kind of thing. The only reason she stays with him is because he's a real man. And every time I see those guys, by the end of their lives, they look so miserable, like they just want to take a gun and shoot themselves. Right there and then. Like they'd be smiling if they did it right in front of their wives. What are you doing with that gun, honey? And then he smiles. Oh, nothing. That's what they look like. They have that look in their eyes. So why would you want a wife? Why is Hugo de Garis and all of these other motherfuckers complaining when you have such blatant contradictions? I don't get it. Alright, so, and then there's D. Remembering that fucking is more animal than human. Duh. And acting accordingly. Duh. Also, even though animals don't fantasize, I do, and in bed anything goes. As Woody said, if sex isn't dirty, why bother? I agree. E. Keeping a hunter's eye out for other women at all times. I don't fuck, feel, or kiss other women, but I flirt with them whenever I can. It keeps my testosterone up, which helps me keep my sexual edge in bed with my wife. Get testosterone boosters. Get some Tangat Ali, man. Then you won't even need to do that shit. If that's what you're worried about with low testosterone, try that. It's a bit easier than dealing with your woman going, "Oh, you're looking at all these other women." So F. Having a therapist I meet with regularly who's wilder and crazier and more aggressive and alpha male than I'll ever be, and using him as my role model. I know too many alpha male motherfuckers. I've had enough of them, and they are annoying, and I want them all to die. So, I choose to be a zeta male motherfucker. I'm beyond both of you bitches. Anyways, moving on. G. Remembering that for us Jewish guys especially, nice is a Yiddish word, roughly translated as gender victim. Oh, I love that one. That was a good one. This article isn't all bad. And finally, H. This goes along with not being too close. If you try to be spiritually correct through being completely open and transparent with your woman, your sex life will sink. Erase the boundaries between you and you blur where she ends and you begin, in which case you might as well go fuck yourself. Okay, once again, what's the point of having a relationship with her then? Just pump and dump her and leave. I don't understand. It's such big contradictions. The cognitive dissonance that must exist in whoever wrote this article and whatever people believe anything that this says. I mean, wow. That's all I can say is wow. That's just wow. But all in all, they got plenty of things right. It's just that subtle shit, like what I just pointed out throughout here. Jeez. And it's just more, kind of pandering to women almost. It's like, man up. Marry those sluts. It's just a variation of that. That's all it is to me. It's just a variation of that. And that's why I don't respect it. So yeah, if you're a masculinist, you know what? I agree with the way that you're trying to look at the world for the most part, but when it comes to the way you want me to treat women, fuck you. When it comes to the way you want me to start getting into a relationship and getting married, fuck you. And then to turn around and tell me all of this bullshit, we don't want to go back to those Christian times, fuck you. At least have the balls to remain consistent in your beliefs. That's all that you have to do to gain honor in this world. And so if you can't do that, then you have no honor. Bye. Alright? That's all I had to say. See you later, folks. Peace out.